Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Wednesday, November 2nd, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys, and start with a Unity update. So, mentioned yesterday the application called Editor VR for the Unity platform. So we got some more details on that today, including the following, that the Unity team's desire is to have pre-made VR frameworks for devs. They would just have to introduce their own assets, right? And Unity would also supply entire libraries of behavior, so artificial intelligence routines, the common AI type stuff. And essentially that users would be able to assemble content throughout Unity without having to code. That's basically the gist of it. Now, the only issue I would have with that, I love the idea, I love the concept, but how low do you put that lowest common denominator for entry? And the reason I say that, take a program like RPG Maker, right? And perhaps that kind of represents the extreme of what I'm about to say, but let's look at that regardless. Now, with RPG Maker, there's no question that there have been good games made with it. I think nobody will argue that point. Just like there's no question that there have been even more crappy games made for it, right? And then you could look at it also from the point of view that regardless if they were crappy or good, there was a bit of a same to a lot of them. And that's just a function of using a homogeneous tool set, right? You're using a tool set for different games, but it's the same tool set. And even more than, say, using the same graphical engine, right? Like an Unreal 4, because Unity is much more than just a graphical library, you're probably going to note that more with those types of things. So, not to say that gems aren't going to be able to be created with this. It's just when you say no programming, look, maybe I'm a little old school in the sense that to me there's a difference between game design and game programming, right? Game design and programming are two different disciplines. Sometimes they work hand in hand. Other times there's clear lines between them, right? And it's a baton handoff, and that's it. Each goes off and does their own thing. So ultimately, how successful is it going to be? I think it has all kinds of awesome potential, but there's a high degree of certainty that there's going to be a lot of crap as well that you have to wade through, right? And the good stuff is going to rise to the top, no doubt, but just something to keep in mind. That would be my only real kind of negative with that. For the most part, I'm optimistic about it. It sounds like a cool feature. All right, next news piece. Now, this one kind of surprised me in the sense that, let's go with the headline. So, Windows 10 VR motion controller has been hiding in plain sight, phrased like a question. So, I took a look at the article, read it, and I'm putting up a screenshot right now that you should be seeing pointing to, an arrow pointing to a circle of a controller that the lady in question is holding. Okay, this video was first released from the Microsoft Windows YouTube channel August 16th of this year, so literally a couple of months ago. Nobody noticed the controller. Now, with the benefit of, hindsight, looking back, we can speculate and ask, is this the controller for Microsoft's VR ambitions? Is it a prototype? Is it just a placeholder, just something she was holding that may or may not be representative of, a final design? We're not sure. All speculation at this point. But it is kind of neat that it's only now that it's being brought up, right? But sure enough, you go back, check out that video, you'll see it in there. All right, next news story. FOVE Zero. This is the eye tracking capable HMD. I've reported on it a couple of times already. They indicated the last time I reported on them, which was over a month ago, that November 2nd would be when pre-orders start. They kept their word. Pre-orders went live today. Shipments are going to go out to Kickstarter backers first. So all the initial orders are going to go out to them, as it should be, right? They were the ones that put, their money out as confidence for the product. 29 countries represented between all those Kickstarter backers. We also know a price now, $599 US, and we have specs. And get this, so $599 US is the price, 520 grams is the weight, and probably something to do with that would be the tracking system itself. So it's an infrared tracking system, operates at 120 frames per second to track your eyes. That seems to be pretty impressive. The weight is a little hefty. Where it's a little disappointing is the refresh rate. So 70 hertz refresh rate as opposed to the 90 of the Rift and Vive, obviously, right? So that's 20 hertz less. It does have an OLED screen, and anyone like me who has the first-gen PlayStation Vita will probably attest it's gorgeous. OLED is just bright and vibrant in a way that LCD, LED has a hard time matching, right? I'd put my PlayStation Vita against any of the, the current models in terms of vibrancy, any day of the week. Now, the field of view is another small negative. So I've had people comment in the past about the Rift and the Vive. It kind of feels like they're looking through a cardboard tube. Well, if you're at all susceptible to that or sensitive to that, this one's going to be worse, right? Because this one is coming in, like I said, at between 90 and 100 field of view. So let's give them the benefit and split it right down the middle. Let's say 95, okay? That is still considerably less, 15 degrees less than the Rift or the Vive. And having used the Gear VR, which, it was noticeable to me, the difference between it and the Rift and Vive, it's going to be noticeable on this, no doubt. But still, the big question I have with this device is software. What are people going to use this for? What's going to be available? There's a lot of questions there. SDKs, a lot of unknowns. Now, it's a Kickstarter project, right? If all anyone ever wanted out of this was a kit that they could fool around with, mission accomplished. That's what it's done. And it's put eye tracking out there as a technology. So a couple of wins, either way you look at it. Next news story, New York Times is going to begin posting daily 360-degree videos. They're calling it the Daily 360. There's one up there. It's pretty powerful right now. It's on the link I'll include down below. It's, I think, a Saudi airstrike due to false information, and they bombed this building. So the 360-degree video is you inside that building and the resulting crater. And it's pretty powerful, right? All of that destruction just based on false information. And like I said, yeah, they're calling that the Daily 360, and it will be a Daily 360-degree video. Next up, Viveland, HTC's huge new arcade opening in Taipei, Taiwan. It's going to be on the 3rd floor of a building. Get this, 330 square meters, so fairly large size, 20 games, and what they're calling 4 themed zones. One of them a Project Car one, so I can guess it's probably going to have cockpit style race pods there. The other one is called, it's a military one, and it's, the HTC created this with Sintren Creative Park, the facility, but yeah, Front Defense is the one I'm looking for. Front Defense, which is the HTC developed war combat game, and 2 other ones that they didn't get into the details of. And that raises that same question, right? And that's all I was saying. At the height of arcade popularity, the reason I say we're dead in the UK and Canada and here, not because we still have arcades, including the Mecca here in North America, Fun Spot, which everybody should visit once in their lifetime, right? But compared to the heyday in the 80s, oh yeah, it's a dead industry. It is gone from every single corner store having an arcade machine, over a dozen arcades within 10 square kilometers of where I live. Now, none, 0. It's pretty much gone. But this is Asia, and there's some different rules there. And Japan has proven for decades now that arcades there are still viable. All right, the next and last news piece, Gear VR is going to allow live streaming of virtual reality gameplay to Facebook. I don't know how popular that'll be. It's not something I've done, not to say that there aren't people who have family and friends that do gaming on Facebook that could benefit from this. So remains to be seen. No word on it for the Rift, however. All right, guys, that is it for the news. As always, cheers, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.